Okay, good morning, everybody. It's my absolute privilege to be able to introduce to you this morning Andy Lopata, who was labelled one of Europe's leading networking strategists by the Financial Times. He's the author of 3 books on networking and also a blogger for the Huffington Post. And he's speaking to us today about using LinkedIn as a referral tool. Please welcome Andy Lopata.
When I was younger, I used to do a lot of cold calling. So I used to work for sales companies, and I used to have to phone business leaders at all levels and try and sell my product to them. And when you cold call for a living, there's someone you get to know very well. Someone who we used to call the gatekeeper. To you, they're known as the PA. And it seemed to me that gatekeeper's only job in life was to stop me getting through to the person I needed to talk to. And I was only ever allowed to speak to the decision maker. If you cold called, you weren't allowed to pitch anyone else because they would just say, oh, we don't need that. You had to get through to the decision maker. And it might take weeks. It might take, in some circumstances, months. And even when you finally got through, you then had to convince someone who didn't know who you were. All they knew is that you were selling to them, that you were worthy of their time. Now, I talk to gatekeepers quite a lot, but they're not gatekeepers anymore. They're the person who answers the phone. They're the PA. Actually, I build quite a good relationship with them. And when they ask me on that first call, what's it about? I simply say, he or she is expecting my call, and I get through. And when I'm put through, the person that I want to talk to is expecting my call. They know why I'm calling. They don't see me as someone who's trying to sell to them. They see me as someone whose services they're interested in, who they are interested in buying from, and that makes a huge difference. One of the key areas that I talk about is referral strategy. How you get to that point where people are expecting your call, they're expecting to hear from you. How you get to the point where you can just say, they know I'm ringing. And focusing on how the network that you have around you can help you by making those introductions for you. All focused on something called the 6 degrees of separation. Something I'm sure many of you have heard of, the 6 degrees of separation. It's the idea that we're no more than 5 steps from anyone in the world. And just before coming across to the room today, I was chatting to Chris Dunn. Chris is speaking in the next door room at the moment. And in that conversation, he mentioned that in one of his previous businesses, they were having a very intense team meeting of the senior management team about how they could sell to a prospective client that they were really keen on working with. And they'd tried so many things and nothing had been working. And they were sitting there and throwing out so many ideas, but nothing had grabbed their attention. Nothing had inspired them. They thought, this is the way. And while they were trying to brainstorm these ideas, a junior member of his staff walked in with cups of tea. And she overheard what they were talking about. And she simply turned around and said, oh, really? She said, my brother-in-law's just got a job at that company as a regional sales manager. Would he be of interest? All these great ideas, all these different approaches, and someone in their team that they hadn't involved in what they were trying to do had the perfect introduction. And they went on and they got the business through that introduction. So 6 degrees of separation tells us that we're no more than 5 steps from anyone in the world. It tells us that through our network, all the people we know, like and trust, we can get those connections. And if we can tap into that, that makes our business so much easier. Because instead of looking to sell to people, instead of trying to get past the gatekeeper, we can phone and say, they're expecting my call. Now, I spend a lot of time working with sales teams on how they integrate a referral strategy into what they do, how they look to tap into their network. And there's one tool that they all have at their fingertips, something that the vast majority, I'm talking about 90% plus of the people I work with, use or have available, but they don't know how to use it to make their life easier. And that is LinkedIn. Can I just ask for a show of hands? How many people here are members of LinkedIn? So it's pretty much everyone. How many of you are using it proactively on a regular basis to get referrals? Okay. Five. So this might be quite a well-timed presentation. So what I want to do today is just talk to you about how LinkedIn works as a referral tool, how it's based on those degrees of separation that I talked about, and it gives you the answer. You know, you could find out that that junior member of staff has that connection without hoping that she walks into the room while you're talking about it, and it just coincidence works. You know, LinkedIn helps you make coincidence work. You know, let's take someone you might want to meet. Let's take someone who might be a prospect for you. Well, why don't we take the managing director of the small business division at Sage? You know, I was talking to someone at a presentation I gave on Monday, and she was saying how she knows so many chief executives and managing directors who are on LinkedIn, and she just trotted off a range of different companies whose CEOs are members of LinkedIn. And if we look at Sage, well, there's Lee Perkins. Now, yes, you could go and talk to Lee after his introduction this morning, but say you don't get the opportunity, or say you weren't at Sage World. I can look at Lee's profile on LinkedIn, and it will immediately tell me that I know 2 people who know Lee. It says there that he's a second-degree connection, and that I know Joe Lennon, who some of you may know, who runs Sage World, and a guy called Graham Bunting, both of whom know Lee. So that tells me immediately who in my network knows the people I want to meet. What I want to share with you today are the 4 steps to knowing how to use this and make it work effectively for you, so that you not only know who those contacts are, but so that you can use LinkedIn effectively so those contacts want to talk to you. I'm going to share a few screenshots like this. Now, I know they're not easy to read. I don't want you to be reading everything on these screenshots. I just want to share some of the site with you. So where I need to, I'll draw out the key points from those screenshots for you. And when we finish the presentation today, Sage have kindly purchased a copy of my new book for each of you, and it's got a whole chapter on this with the screenshots there. So you can make your own notes, but you'll also get a copy of the book to take away with you as well. So you'll have everything there for you. Okay, so let's have a look at the 4 steps to using LinkedIn as a referral tool. And the first step is about the message you convey. It's about what you tell people about yourself. It's about getting your profile right. Because what we have to look at is, if you ask someone in your network for an introduction to someone who doesn't know you, and you ask for that introduction through LinkedIn, where's the first place they're going to look? They're going to look at your profile. They want to find out who you are. They want to find out about you. Even if you just use the website for research and you ask for the introduction separately, they're still going to look at your LinkedIn profile. So many buyers are now researching their suppliers on LinkedIn. I don't know how often you Google yourself, but have you seen how high up LinkedIn comes up on the search results? How many of you have got a photo on your LinkedIn profile? Just over half of you. For those of you who don't, you're immediately missing a trick. You know, if we just go back to Lee's profile, immediately it's personalized for us. We see the person behind it. If you've just got a blank profile with no picture there, you're not engaging with people straight away. There's no personality. As I heard one speaker say, it's still a social network. It's about people. And we need to be aware of that. So get a photo onto that profile. How many of you have spent time in the last 6 months looking at your profile and saying, does it say the right things about me? Okay, a small handful of you. What most of us tend to do is we join LinkedIn because we get an invitation to do so. We have a look at it and we put up a basic CV and then we leave it. And, you know, we'll get all these invitations to connect, which I'll come back and talk about, and you know we decide what to do with those. But that's probably what, as much as many people do with LinkedIn. You should be revisiting your profile on a regular basis. Is it still up to date? Is it still focusing on what you want to say to your prospective clients? Is it including everything that you're doing at the moment? I've gone back time and again and seen that there's things on my profile I've missed that are no longer relevant. You have to keep looking at it. But the most important thing is when you do that, you need to be saying what you think your prospects will want to hear, what will engage them, What will get them to want to talk to you rather than thinking, what do I want to say? Start thinking in their minds rather than your own. So I want to break down that profile a little bit for you and just look at a couple of different areas that you may not be aware of. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just share a couple of things with you. First of all, this is from my profile. Now, there's a couple of things here. First of all, I touched on the photo. I want to share with you why I chose this photo. You see, when you do put a photo up, there's various choices people go for. Number one is the standard passport shot with a nice curtain behind you. That doesn't really engage. It doesn't show your personality. It doesn't show your character. The next choice is what I call the Facebook photo. That's the one with a pint of beer in your hand and a ginger wig on your head. Is that the one you've got? So that's not exactly ideal if you're trying to engage people on a business level. The third choice is the holiday snap. I like the one where someone puts up the picture of themselves in front of one of the pyramids, including the whole pyramid in the photo. Now, this is big on here, but these thumbnails aren't very big. You can magnify them slightly, but they're not going to see you. You want it so people recognise you when they see you. The reason I've chosen this picture, I'm smiling. It looks relaxed, but it looks formal, it looks professional. I've got a microphone in my hand. That relates to what I do for a living. So it's very carefully chosen. So this says, this is an engaging person. He's relaxed, he's easy to get on with, but he enjoys his work as well. Okay, so think about the right picture for you and invest in a good one if you haven't got one. It is worthwhile, and with the amount of social media around now, you'll get plenty of use from it. The next thing is what it says under my name. You see, most people will put their job title there. If we go back a second to Lee's, it says Managing Director, Small Business Division at Sage. Now, if you're with a recognised brand like Sage, that's fine. But if I put on mine, Director of H&A Lopata Limited, what does that say to anyone who doesn't know me? It says nothing. It doesn't engage them. It doesn't get them to want to meet me, to want to talk to me. And when you come up in search results, what they'll see is this part, your photo and what you do and where you're based. So what I've gone for is helping individuals and companies build and leverage networks to develop their businesses and their careers. I haven't said business networking strategist. Doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. I haven't put my company name. I've said how I help people. Let's look at a couple of others. Steve Trister. I stop business professionals leaving their audience numb, unconnected, and scampering out of the door when they speak. Steve is a comedian and he trains people on presentation skills. But that's engaged you, hasn't it? You immediately think from that, if you just saw that in search results, wouldn't you be interested in meeting him? And secondly, what he's thought is, what is the problem faced by the people I want to attract? If you put on any events when you speak, or if you're a speaker yourself, you want to avoid your audience feeling numb, unconnected, and scampering out the door when you speak, don't you? So if that resonates, you think, well, actually, I need to talk to this guy. And you want people to come to you through search results as well, but for what we're talking about today, the first thing they see, they'll decide immediately, do I want to deal with this person? Do I want to know more? And wouldn't that say more, and wouldn't that engage you more than if it said Performance Dynamics Limited, which is his company name? So what can you say in your professional headline, as it's called, to get people interested in you? I want to go back to mine for a second. I want to show you something else that I've done. Something else that LinkedIn have introduced gradually over the last year or two is status updates, microblogging as per Twitter, as per Facebook. So I've got delighted with the news that recommended is to be translated and published in China. So that's my new book. That's something I want to share with my network. Now, what a lot of people do is they put a feed from their Twitter stream into their LinkedIn updates. Does anyone here do that? Yeah, a few of you. You use a different language on Twitter than you do on LinkedIn. A lot of your network and your potential network on LinkedIn won't understand what a hashtag is, an @sign. It won't make sense to them. So if I was to put up there, I just tweeted earlier, speaking at 11 o'clock at #SageWorld. That would look out of place on LinkedIn. It would look out of place on Facebook. So I decide which updates I share where. Sometimes I'll share them across all three. Sometimes one will go on Facebook and Twitter. Sometimes it'll just go on LinkedIn. I actually update LinkedIn a lot less frequently than I do the others, and I make it stuff that has an impact, a big impact, because that's what I want on my profile, which is key. So how often do you update your status on LinkedIn if you're not feeding through from elsewhere? And how much thought do you put in to what it says? Because what we're focusing on is what that prospect will see that will make them want to talk to you, will make them be interested in finding out what you offer. And, you know, some of the stuff I put on Twitter might not qualify for that because I'm trying to achieve different things. So think that one through as well. The next area I want to talk about is something that a lot of people miss, and it's a professional summary. What you'll see when you look at a lot of people's LinkedIn profiles is it will go straight to their CV. But you have the opportunity to put in free text just about you and what you do and your approach. Now, you won't be able to read this, but I want to show you 2 examples and just pick out what they've done. So it comes under summary. This is a guy called David McQueen. And David has split up what he does into 3 areas. His business, as a TV presenter, he presented a show on Channel 4, and as a speaker. Okay, so it's really easy to see it and pick up what he does. Now, compare that look, particularly with the bullet points, to just going in and seeing a cold, formal CV. The other important thing that David has done here is he's written this in the first person. Now, I put out a question to my LinkedIn network some time ago where I asked them, what do you like most in a LinkedIn profile? And the most common response I got was written in the first person. Now, until then, my profile said, Andy Lopata does this, Andy Lopata does that. It now says, I do this, I do that. And that indeed is what David has said. So he said, I've had experience in a number of startups since being in school, including a rather large rave company. So you've got immediately, he's speaking to you. It's much more personal. If I look at another example, this is a guy called Tom Ball. Tom's a great guy. And he's the life and soul of the party. He's one of the nicest people I know. I think that comes across in what he's written. He said, for example, I was told once that I'm helplessly in love with people. I rather liked it, and I hope it's at least partly true. I love spending time with good people, doing things worth doing. To me, good means people that are passionate about life and something they do. Now, wouldn't you want to meet that guy? Would you get that just from a cold CV? Would you get that type of thing? So you need to think about how you can get your own personality across to the people you want to meet. I urge everyone here to write a summary at the top of your LinkedIn profile. Tell them about you before you tell them about what you do. And also tell them about you as you tell them about what you do. Let them engage with the personality. It's a cliche, but I believe that cliches are so-called for a reason. It's because they make sense. People buy people. And if all you do is put up an advertising message on your LinkedIn profile, you're not engaging with people. And that's the key you need to be looking for, engaging with people. There's one last thing I want to show you about the profile. There's lots of stuff on there, and there's lots of different things you can add on, but I don't want to go into that depth of detail today. I just want to give you the introduction to it. One more thing I want to show you. Again, something that a lot of people miss, and that's at the bottom of your profile. It has contact details. Now, what most people leave is the standard. It has your email address, it might have your phone number, and that's it. But what I've put here, I'm available to help you implement a networking or referral strategy into your business or as a keynote speaker at events. Please contact me at. So I'm speaking to you, and I'm using it to sell. I'm using it to say what I do. So you've got the opportunity there to tell people what you do again, to reinforce the message. I've put my email and my phone number there, and then I've said I'm happy to help anyone with general advice on networking. You can also sign up to my 3-weekly newsletter, and there's my website. So what you have there is another opportunity to engage with people. Most people just leave that as the blank. You do have these consulting offers, expertise requests, that's standard within the site. But the key thing there is to be aware of every opportunity to engage with people and to get across your message in a way that people will respond to. So that's the first step, is to get your profile right. Once we've done that, we can move on to step 2, which is to build your network. Now, what most people do is they go onto LinkedIn and they say, who can I connect to? But my thinking about getting your profile right is quite simple. You might connect with people you haven't spoken to for a while. Where's the first place they're going to look? You might connect with people that you do speak to regularly, but they don't really know everything about what you do and who you do it for. Where's the first place they're going to look? So if you get your profile right first, when you connect with people and they look at your profile, they might learn something new and you might see some more opportunities come out of that. Now, who you connect to and how you do so is a choice for how you use LinkedIn. I'm focusing today specifically on using LinkedIn as a referral tool. There are other ways that you can use it. Now, if you're only using LinkedIn as a referral tool, I have a simple rule of thumb for whom you connect to. If asked, would you refer them? And if you asked them, would they refer you? If not, then why are you connecting to them on LinkedIn if you're only using it as a referral tool? That's a black and white perspective on it. If you're using LinkedIn for other things, you may grow your network in different ways. So, for example, I speak outside the UK as well. So if I speak outside the UK, I'll get LinkedIn requests from people who were in the audience. So a couple of weeks ago, I spoke in Milan. I had 2 or 3 LinkedIn requests from people in that audience. I don't know when I'm going to be back in Milan again. So staying in touch with those people is really important to me so I can keep building my profile there. So I'm using LinkedIn for a different reason. So there are shades of grey. But for a referral tool, the black and white is, would you refer them? And would they refer you? But what you need to be aware of is the power of a strong network on LinkedIn. Now, my business strapline is connecting is not enough. Connecting is not enough. I'm not someone who believes in just connecting with people for the sake of it. In fact, there's a couple of people here today who sent me connection requests on LinkedIn because they were coming to the session at Sage World. And I said, well, let's meet at Sage World. Let's have a conversation first. And they'll recognise a couple of things that I'm going to show you from the response I gave to their connection requests. But we still do need a strong network because it gives us exponential reach, exponential growth. When my network's actually larger than I'd like for historical reasons. It's about 1,300 now because of the shades of grey and because I've been on LinkedIn so long before I decided on my strategy. When I hit 1,000 connections, this is what I found. I had 279,000 people in my second-degree network. Now, I mentioned that LinkedIn is based on this theory of 6 degrees of separation. Second-degree network means that these are people who know people to whom I'm connected. Nearly 300,000 people. And I've just shown you at the beginning the level those people can be at. Managing directors, chief executives of big firms globally. And look at that number underneath, 8.5 million. Third-degree connections. 8.5 million people within reach. That means that you know someone who knows someone who knows that person. And through LinkedIn, you can ask for the requests. You can ask for the connection. And in a lot of cases, they'll accept it. Even though 2 of the 3 people in the chain don't know you, if you do things the right way, they'll accept it. So you do need a reasonable size network. I don't actually advocate a network of 1,000 people. I just wanted to show you the level of growth if you do that. But just out of interest, how many people here have fewer than 100 connections on LinkedIn? Okay. And how many of you have got more than 250? Okay, so it's a similar sort of numbers, similar range. I would suggest that aim for 60 as a starting point. You must have 60 people to whom you can connect on LinkedIn, people who would trust you and who you trust. And when you think about those people, it doesn't have to be just clients or suppliers or colleagues or other business contacts. It can be family. It can be friends. It can be social contacts as well, because a good referral strategy opens up the opportunity of referrals coming from all different places. So think of at least 60 people who you'd be comfortable referring and would be comfortable referring you. Or even people who you think you could do if you got to know them better, pick up the phone and go for a coffee. Go and meet them, build your network. But I don't tend to go down the mass network route. Have we got any lions in the room? Has anyone come across the term lion on LinkedIn? A few of you. Lion is LinkedIn Open Networker. LinkedIn Open Networkers will connect to anyone. If you send them a connection request, they'll accept it straight away. And for me, I mean, their philosophy based on this is that gives them tremendous reach. For me, I'm not so sure. If you ask for a key introduction and that person doesn't know you, how happy would they be to make a worthwhile introduction for you? So I'm not so sure about that approach. But there are people that believe in it. But pick the right approach for you. Let's have a look at some of the ways that you can find connections on LinkedIn. Okay, there's a number of different approaches you can take. Oh, sorry, before we do that, have any of you seen a message like this from people you don't know? Yeah? What do you do with that? Delete? Do a lot of you delete it? Look at the profile? Anything else? So how do you decide? If you look at the profile, how do you decide whether to connect or not?
If they're in an industry that I'd like to do business with, I'd
Okay.
explore the opportunity.
Okay, yeah.
Ask them to contact me and have a discussion.
Great. If they're in an industry that they'd like to do business with, I'll contact them and see if we can explore something further and have a conversation. That's key. A lot of people will delete that message. A lot of people just click delete. I did for a long time. I figure if people aren't willing to take time and say why they want to connect with me and I don't know them, and as you'll see, there are different ways that your name can crop up and people just click connect, then what's the point, particularly if you're using it for a referral strategy? I actually lost potential business because of that, because some potential clients found me on LinkedIn and just sent a connection request. So here's what I do now, and this is what a couple of you will have seen. Thank you for your connection requests. I predominantly use LinkedIn for people with whom I have a strong existing relationship, as it's a key referral tool for me. Now, I choose that wording very carefully because they may be people, as I had this week, someone replied to that and said, we sat next to each other at an event you spoke at a year ago. Now, I didn't remember him from that, but when he said that, okay, I can remember. But so if I say, I only connect with people I know, that might offend. But if I say a strong existing relationship, that can't offend him because we've only met once a year ago. So it sort of fits. But I don't like to ignore invitations from people I don't know, as all connections are important to me. Can you let me know a little bit more about you and why you came to connect with me? Now, that says, come on, work for the connection, effectively. If you're genuinely connecting and you're genuinely interested, let's have a conversation. And if you're willing to have a conversation with me, more often than not, I'll connect with you. But it sorts out the wheat from the chaff. The people who don't respond, the people who are just looking for mass connections, who have no idea why they're connecting with me because they just saw my name crop up and thought, okay, connect, they won't reply. They won't respond to that at all. So take the time. I keep that as a template in Word. I put their name at the top. If there's anything in there, so for example, the connection request from Milan, it was pretty obvious how they knew me. So I just replied and said, I assume, were you at my talk in Milan? Because we may not have spoken. But at least I start a conversation, and that's what I'm aiming to achieve. We need to focus in on that. So I do urge you, don't delete connection requests. Respond to all of them. Give them the opportunity to save it as a draft in your Word document or in your email folder if you can do it that way. Okay. So, on to the different ways we can connect with people on LinkedIn. Number one, you can upload your contacts. You can upload your Outlook address book. You can upload your Google address book or whatever email account that you use. Now, when it comes up, you'll see all of these ticks in the right-hand column. Can you all see that? Next to everyone's name, there's a tick. That means that it will automatically send an invitation to everyone that you have ticked, okay? If you do that, you'll start sending out connection requests to people who are just in your email address book. In your email address book. You'll just be sending out connection requests to people you've never really had any relationship with. So the first thing you should do is untick at the top where it says select all, and then pick the people who satisfy the criteria to whom you should connect. Only send it to them. And I only send it to people who are on LinkedIn. Here it says you have 110 contacts that can be invited and 16 are already using LinkedIn. I only send that formal connection request to the people who are already on LinkedIn. Why do I do that? Because we've all had so many invitations to join LinkedIn now, I figure most people have made up their mind. If they're not on it already, a template email from me. And if you do it this way, you can't personalize your request, your invitation. A template email to me will not go down particularly well. If there's someone on there who isn't on LinkedIn and I think, you know what, I need to be on LinkedIn with them, I'll pick up the phone and I'll say, you know, I want to invite you to connect on LinkedIn. I saw you not on there. Is there a reason? So you need to think about the people you're approaching. You need to think for them when you do this as well. The next approach. What you've got here is people you may know. So I don't know quite how LinkedIn does it. It comes up with some phenomenal results when you do this. But it just has a list of people you might know. I mean, you've got someone there who's the daughter of a client of mine in Sweden who's joined LinkedIn. So they'll see that I'm connected with Mike, and it will see Mike's connected with his daughter, and then it will make the decision. So you can click on the tab at the top that says people you may know, and you can start saying, well, actually, yep, I should be connected to them, and I should be connected to them, and I should be connected to them, and you can send out invitations to people to connect. Okay? So if you're looking to build your network, click on that tab, people you may know. And then you can search, and I'm going to show you search a little bit later, but in this case, I searched specifically for Matt Forrest. Now, Matt, you'll meet over the next 2 days if you don't know him already, but Matt's the guy who's introducing all of the speakers on the main stage over the next 2 days. And this was done last year after Sage World. So I met Matt at Sage World when I spoke last year, and I searched him out. So in the column here, you've got a search column. I've just searched Matthew Forrest in the United Kingdom. Okay, and so it whittles it down, and I've got 2 results. So I can see Matt, I can see how I'm connected to him, but if I hover my mouse over his name, it gives me a little sub-menu, and it says, send email, get introductions, add to network, or find references. I click add to network, okay, and I send Matt a message. Now, when you get those messages, you know, the template ones that I talked about, this is the screen that people see before they send it out. How do you know Matt? I'm getting so many that say friend from people I've never heard of. Please be respectful to people, because I'm not so bothered because it's just a computer program, but I do know people who get offended by that. How can they call me friend? I've never met them before. So, you know, pick the appropriate one, and if it says I don't know them, get their email address, which it will ask you for, and send a request, but say why. You see, I didn't send Matt this message. I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. I sent Matt this message. Hi, Matt. It was great to meet you last week. Well done again on a fantastic event. Would you be happy to connect here? The only time I don't send that is if I see someone who I'm really close to and we're not connected on LinkedIn. You know what? They're probably not going to be that bothered with the personal message. But it is still nice to put it. You know, I will more often than not still do that, but generally you need to be as personal as possible and engaging as possible when you send that connection request. One other way to build your network, and that's groups. Again, you won't be able to see this clearly, but I'll talk you through it. You mentioned just before that if they're in an industry in which you're interested in doing business with, what you can do is you can build your network by joining groups that are around your areas of interest. So groups around an industry, groups around an area of expertise, anything along those lines. And if you join those groups and you are active within those groups, you'll raise your profile with people there. And if you do that, they'll start to want to connect to you on LinkedIn and you'll have conversations. So what I did here is I've put in a search for small business finance. Small business finance in the groups area of LinkedIn. And all of these groups come up. So you've got Startup Phase Forum, Federal Biz Network, Government Stimulus Teaming Jobs, Small Business Network, Business Owners, Entrepreneurs and Startups, Global Business Consulting and Networking. Now, if you take, for example, people from Sage, Small Business Division, they want to be known in this area and they want to build their contacts of people who are influential in this area. So if I was from Sage, I would be joining perhaps a small business network or the Global Business Consulting and Networking Group. I would look for groups in the geographic areas that I want to work in and in the industry areas I want to work in, and then I would be proactive. I would post things in those groups. I would make my profile stand out so I attract people to me. So if you want to grow your network amongst people who you don't know yet but who would be good people to refer you, groups is a great place to start. But you can't just lurk and watch what's going on. You have to be proactive within those groups. Okay, so that was step 2, growing our network. The next thing we want to do is we want to make that profile even stronger. We want to get people to engage with us even more. And we want to tap into the power of endorsement, the power of testimonials. I'm a great believer that it's one thing for me to say how good I am at what I do. It's something else entirely for other people to say it for me. And I was at a convention at the weekend, the Professional Speaking Association convention. And one of the bits of feedback that we were given in one of the meetings was that meeting planners, people who book speakers, now go straight to LinkedIn and look at testimonials. That's what they want to read. So you do get people who say testimonials on LinkedIn don't have value. Well, they don't have value if I give you a testimonial and you give me one back straight away. People discard those automatically. They don't have value if we work together and I give you a testimonial. Or I just say about what a nice person you are. But they do have value if they're from the right people and they say the right thing about you. And they will add a lot of weight to what you say about what you do. And there's a simple model for that. It's the model I teach in groups when we talk about how you get referred. And it's, again, all about thinking about the person you want to do business with. Why would they want to meet you? Why would they want to book you? And that reason is because they have a problem. People buy for one of 2 main reasons. They buy because they have a problem, or they buy because they have a desire. And I'm guessing most people in this room satisfy problems. Is that fair enough? So it's not one thing just to say, you did a nice job for me, but why did you do that job? And the model I use is problem, solution, benefit. This is the problem I faced. This person came in and provided this solution, and as a result, we benefited. Now, if you read that on a LinkedIn profile from a potential supplier, and the problems resonated with the issues in your business, wouldn't you be interested? Not based on what they say, but on what their clients have said. So you want to find people who can say that about you. Clients that you've worked with, people who have worked with you and seen how you've delivered. And get the testimonials from those people. I picked a testimonial from a couple of people in my network. This is someone called Sarah Arrow. And she's had a testimonial left for her by Leela Bullock. And I'm just going to read this out because it doesn't follow exactly problem, solution, benefit, but the key issues are there. I've known Sarah for a while now, although only recently have we connected properly. Not only is Sarah highly connected, very personable, and a delight to know. That's nice to know, isn't it? But that's not going to make you want to buy. Once you're interested, that's going to help. But she's also brilliant and incredibly talented at what she does. So we're now saying she's good at what she does. She's good at her job. But this is where we get to the meat of it. Sarah has not only created a fabulous blog for me, but has also taken the time to ensure I get the best results for search engine optimization, as well as coming up with many other ideas and ways to enhance my blog. So what Sarah's doing, she's helping people optimize their blog. She's helping them get found and to be creative about the way they approach it. So if you're interested in what Sarah does, wouldn't that testimonial help? I highly recommend that you not only connect with Sarah if you haven't already, but if you're looking to have a blog or want to improve yours, her blogging service is truly unique and second to none. That's better than saying Sarah's a really nice person and it's great to see her at networking events. It's got a lot more value. Would you be more interested in someone who has 6 testimonials with that power or 100 that say nothing? So look and think who in your network can endorse you, who in your network knows what you do, who you do it for, and can get that message across powerfully. And then guide them with the testimonial that you want. And you can actually, if people leave a testimonial for you, you have the opportunity to approve it or go back and ask for changes. Don't be frightened to go back and ask for changes, but pick up the phone and just say, this is what I want to get across. Can you help me with that? So we've got all of this in place now. We've got our profile looking absolutely right. We've got the network in place to refer us. We've got the testimonials that really reinforce the message. So how then do we connect? How do we find the people that we want to meet? There's two approaches you can take. The first is very simple, and it's looking at the people you know in your network and looking at who they know. So once you're connected to someone, you can look at their network and it will list everyone they know. So you can see everyone in their network. Again, you won't be able to read that, but that's a list of some of the people in my network on LinkedIn. Now, if you've got a network like mine, that's 283,000 people. So you're not necessarily going to go through everyone and pick out all the people they know. But what you can do is before you go for a coffee with someone that you think might refer you, do a quick bit of research. Look at their LinkedIn network. Because when you ask for a referral, if you know who you want to meet, and you can be very specific about it, you make it easy for them. So if you look at their network and you see, for example, I see you know David Parker, that's someone I'd like to meet, would you introduce me? You've suddenly made it a lot easier for them to give you a referral. So it can help you do your research. But the other way is tapping into that 6 degrees of separation. It's knowing who you want to meet and using LinkedIn to find out who you know who knows them and then ask for the connection. So you've got a very advanced search engine on LinkedIn where you can search for the key people you want to meet. Again, I know you won't be able to read this in detail, but you've got areas like the keywords they use in their profile, their location, where they're based, their job title, their company, whether they're there now or they've been there in the past, the country they're in, the industry they're in, the groups that they're members of, all these sorts of things you can search by. For this example, I've searched title business development, company Coca-Cola. Let's find out who I know in business development in Coca-Cola. So we click search, and we immediately get a list of results. In this case, there's 387 results for business development in Coca-Cola. And you can organise them. So you may not be able to see, but at the top it says sort by relevance. You can sort by their relationship to you, so how many degrees away they are. There's about 4 different search options or listing options. So we've got different people here. Now, you see these blue circles next to their name. They say second. That means they're a second-degree connection. It means that you know someone who knows them. And underneath, it says one shared connection. And if you click on that, it gives you a nice picture of the person you know who knows that person. So what you can do at that stage is you can just ask for the connection. You can do it through the site, as I'll show you in a moment, or you can pick up the phone and say, Mark, I see you know Darren. How well connected are you to him? Would you be happy to introduce me? So you can do it either way. If it says third, so I've picked Suzanne here. She's a third-degree connection. Again, if you hover your mouse over that person, you get this little sub-menu on the side, and in there it says Get Introduced. And if I click on Get Introduced, it shows me who I know who knows someone who knows Suzanne. It won't tell me the whole chain because you can only see the network of your direct connection. You can't see who they know beyond that. Or who those networks can know. So it'll only show you who you know who knows someone who knows them. But you can pick that person, you can pick up the phone to them and say, can you search for Suzanne on LinkedIn and see how you're connected, and if that's a strong approach. Or you can just ask them for the connection through the site and get them to pass the message along. And this is a screen you get. It says, to Suzanne. So I'm writing a message to Suzanne at Coca-Cola. Here's my contact information, and I send Suzanne a message. So this message is going to go from me to my contact, from my contact to their contact, and from their contact to Suzanne. It gets passed along the line. And you need to think, what's going to get Suzanne to want to reply? And what's going to get everyone in that chain to want to pass it on? I got one request to pass on from someone who wanted to meet a celebrity chef. And that celebrity chef was in the network of someone I knew. And the message they wanted me to pass on said, if you ever want me to look at your pensions, let me know. I didn't pass it on. In Suzanne's case, I've said, I've noticed that the bubbles in Coca-Cola seem to be less fizzy than in competitor drinks. I have a new way of introducing lighter, fizzier and whizzier bubbles. And I'd love the opportunity to discuss it with you. I said, what's her problem? How can I solve it? Problem, solution, benefit. I'm trying to get it across to a problem they'll know about. I can also send a message through to Mark. Mark is my contact who knows someone who knows Suzanne. Hi, Mark. You know that my fizz is whizzier than most. Would you be a star and pass my message to Suzanne together with your own thoughts based on your experience of working with me? So then Mark passes that on to his contact. He says, Andy is fizzier and whizzier than anyone I know. Coca-Cola is so flat these days, you really need to pass this on to Suzanne. So you can get your network really working for you to create and open that opportunity. So LinkedIn is such a powerful tool to help us connect with the people we want to meet. No longer do we have to face the gatekeeper and spend weeks trying to cold call and get through to that decision maker, only then to convince them they have to listen to us. We're all surrounded by people who know the people we want to meet, who know us, like us, and trust us, and can pass that message on to our network. We need to have a referral strategy that helps us focus on that and helps us really get into that. And LinkedIn is a tool that makes that so much easier. For those of you who haven't gone back to your LinkedIn profile for a while and looked at it, I would urge you to do so. For those of you, which was most of you, who have never looked at these 6 degrees or 3 degrees of separation as it is on LinkedIn and looked at how you can get to the connections you need, I would urge you to do so. Business doesn't have to be tough. Meeting the people we want to meet doesn't have to be tough. You don't have to wait for them to come off stage and join the queue. You can ask for the introduction on LinkedIn. I hope you found that useful. I'm going to be around for the 2 days, and I'm going to be running a couple of surgery sessions as well, including 4 o'clock today. So if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them then. Thank you very much.